Cześć everyone, my name is Anita Ulikowska.
And my name is Ania Siemiączko, and we are your local foreigners.
And in today's episode, we are talking to you about our second home, which is Wales.
Yes.
We came to the UK when we were 19 and we landed in Wales for very different reasons. Well, kind of the same, but my story was very accidental. Your story was a little bit more intentional, but also accidental in a way.
Accidental in Wales, yes.
In a way, yeah.
Because I never actually intended to end up in Wales. And I'm so happy that I did.
Yeah, so we both ended up living in Wales, myself for about 5 years.
And 2 years for me.
And it's every time I go back to that time that I lived in Wales and I lived in Cardiff, I feel so warm and I really love going back to that time. And it's filled with wonderful memories, lots of like very specific tastes and things that I used to do when I was living in Wales. And we recently went to visit Wales again. And when we went there, all of a sudden, that ocean of memories and of that life that I used to have came back. And I had this feeling like, oh my God, I can't believe that this used to be my home.
Yeah.
Did you feel the same?
No, it feels like a lifetime ago. Like a different life. But at the same time, I still think of Wales as home. And I still go back to Wales with that and have that homey feeling every time I cross the bridge. We didn't cross the bridge, but
the moment we saw the sign saying Wales, right? Welcome to Wales.
Yeah.
It's like it does spark that feeling of
a coming home feeling.
Home. Yeah.
Do you get emotional when you cross the bridge? I actually get very emotional when I cross the bridge.
It's a very grand entry as well, right? Like this is the best way to enter a country. I feel like every country should have a bridge to cross when you enter. So I definitely feel emotional because it's so scenic, it's so beautiful, so grand, and at the same time you just feel like it's different. You come to a different country, literally. Absolutely. You know,
it's a shame you kind of end up in Newport in the first place, but that's a bit of a downer after the bridge. But then you're in Cardiff right after, so it's great.
Exactly. But, yeah. So you still feel like Wales is a home to you?
Yeah, and I'm not sure why. As in, because I was only there for 2 years, so I spent almost 9 years in London. And I love London, but it's not home necessarily. Whereas Wales, even though it was such a short period of time, it feels still like a lifetime of its own. And it feels really long in my memory, like a really good long time. And maybe because it was just one of the best times in my life. And also, I guess it was very formative years. So it was my first place as an adult me away from my parents. So maybe that's why it feels like home, because I always say I grew up in Wales, really. That's where, it's only in Wales where I kind of learned to be sort of an adult and navigate my own world and create my own world, kind of, and my own identity. And I guess it must be true for anyone moving to the UK when you almost like create your UK identity, because of the language, and language changes so much, and culture as well. And because it was Wales that was part of it, growth and that new identity. Maybe that's why it's such a strong home feeling, and I still think of it as that.
When you think of that time when you lived in Wales, did you actually think of Wales as a whole, or do you go back more to Cardiff? Like, do you feel more related to Cardiff?
I guess more Wales as a whole, specifically obviously Cardiff, but because my ex was Welsh, and I spent so much time with his family and friends from the valleys, and the Welsh identity was very strong. I experienced Wales through Cardiff and through being a student in Cardiff, and then I experienced Wales through his eyes and his family's eyes. So I really had that Welsh life in Wales. So I guess maybe that gave me that extra dimension of really kind of seeing Wales as kind of part of me, because his family were my family at the time, and we're all very close. And I guess I kind of almost wanted to stay in Wales in the first place. I never intended to leave Wales. I never really wanted to go to London ever. And had I not hated my degree, I would have probably stayed. So I probably would have stayed if I'd been doing film in Wales. I probably would have never left, because I just had the best time, and I felt instantly at home in Cardiff. It was that feeling of I arrived at 18, and it felt great, like it felt right. When I arrived in London, it felt awful. For a very long time. I literally counted days until I could leave London, and now here I am again doing the same thing. But yeah, I never had that feeling with Wales. It felt instantly good for me, like a right fit.
I felt exactly the same. And in our first episode, we talk about our coming here to the UK, and I talk about how I felt the moment I entered Cardiff, and it felt so wonderful, and I really instantly felt like this was going to be my home, and it was. And interestingly enough, although I spent much longer time in Cardiff, in Wales as well, my time there was very much centered around Cardiff, and I just felt like it was such a fantastic place to live that I almost never felt like I needed to leave anywhere. And it's crazy to think about that now, because I love traveling, and I probably travel like every couple of months at least, maybe every month and a half. And when I was living in Wales, for a long time, it didn't even cross my mind to leave. I was so happy and so content in Cardiff. But also because of that, I felt like for a long time I didn't explore beyond Cardiff. It was only towards the end of my degree that two things happened. I had a very close friend who was Welsh, and she lived in the Valleys. So she took me... I would not be able to pronounce it, and I don't remember. I don't remember now.
It's funny with the names, right? Because I remember meeting Neil, my ex, for the first time, and he told me where he was from, which is a really lovely tiny village at the end of Rhondda Valley called the Blind Rhondda. But I couldn't actually understand what he was saying. So I kind of just made out Rhondda and made him repeat it a few times, and I had no idea what he was saying. And I remember going back to work the next day and talking about this guy I met, and my Welsh colleagues asked me where he was from. I was like, I don't know, somewhere Rhondda. And they went, oh God, Rhondda. As in the whole valley, because it's got a bit of a reputation. And I was like, yes. And it turned out to be Blind Rhondda. So it's like different. The names can be tricky as well.
Yeah, because the language is so different, and the sounds are the kind of sounds that for some reason don't stick well in my memory. So it's very difficult for me to remember the names.
Sounds so much better.
They do, when they... So when we went to Snowdonia, when was it? A couple of weeks ago, I was ordering something at the bottom of the lake that we walked around.
Yeah.
And the guy who was serving us, he said at some point, he was asking me where we're going, and he was asking me the names, and I was like, I might have been in those places, but because you're pronouncing them correctly, I'm actually not even sure. I'm not sure now which places I have been to and which ones I have not, because I know that you're pronouncing it correctly, and I was just reading it, letter by letter with my Polish pronunciation, or trying to put on the English pronunciation on top of it. So it's really funny how the Welsh language is it sounds so beautiful. But I didn't have much contact with it for most of my time that I was in Wales, because not many people that I met in Cardiff spoke Welsh. You know,
Okay,
they
right.
spoke a little bit of it, maybe,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I never remember meeting anyone who spoke. No, there was one person who spoke Welsh fluently. She was she was doing the same degree as me. Apart from that, not many people did. So it was such a shock as well to go for the first time to north of Wales a couple of weeks ago and meet someone who like all of a sudden like randomly just like speaks
Love
Welsh,
it.
you
Yeah,
know?
it's
Or like we
amazing.
were walking past the coffee shop and I remember like I stopped you because I was saying like these two women speak in Welsh. They're
Yeah.
just like having
Yeah,
just a
so
normal
cool.
conversation in Welsh and sounds beautiful.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And but Cardiff actually has that sort of reputation of not being super Welsh, and I heard Welsh people
Yeah.
treat Cardiff, but I guess it's the same as with any capital.
Yeah.
As like, oh, it's not very Welsh, you know, kind of looking down on it. Like,
Uh-huh.
really, I think with the Welsh, they kind of go with Swansea more than Cardiff. But maybe it's also football team divide. I've been part of that as well. It's just not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I can understand because there is a big difference between Cardiff and the valleys and, you know,
The rest of the
and the rest
country.
of it's very diverse, and you can really feel it when you leave Cardiff and you go into, I don't know, you go into Brecon Beacons. It's like a totally different
Yeah.
world, right? And north of Wales felt very different from the south of Wales, so
Yeah.
I can understand how people might feel a bit detached from Cardiff.
Yes.
And it's a
yeah.
mixture of different cultures, right? Because it's a university town,
Yeah.
multicultural town, national town.
Yeah, and I think I would agree with all of that, and with the Welsh kind of looking down, the Welsh from outside of Cardiff looking down on Cardiff. But I think the Welsh in Cardiff still have that, even those who don't speak Welsh, that huge love and affinity for Wales and Welsh language, and even it kind of manifests itself in the really small things like naming places in Welsh or choosing to use the Welsh name instead of the English one. Like remember there was there is the Welsh club in Cardiff that I used to frequent a lot in my student days.
Are you talking about Goodywho? Or was
No,
that?
that
Oh no,
was-
it was actually the Welsh.
the Welsh club,
but it had
it
the
was called
Welsh name.
Clubby Forbach.
Yeah,
Right?
is that how you pronounce
Clubby
it?
Forbach. Yeah.
Can you
So-
say it again?
Clubby Forbach. I
What?
hope I'm saying it in the right way. I think I am, but I'm not 100% sure. But so all my friends will either go, oh, we're going to club, or we're going to Clubby Forbach. So no one really wanted to say the Welsh club,
Welsh
apart from
club.
the English. The English were more kind of
yeah.
like, oh, we're going to the Welsh club, but it was always Clubby Forbach. And it sounds so much better. We're going to Clubby Forbach. That's so much better than saying, oh, we're going to the Welsh club. Or Goody, who was another one. Sadly deceased.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
Rest in peace.
rest in peace.
Goody
Who brilliant venue and the best of times.
And just for clarity, it's not a person. It's only a club. It's an inanimate object.
only a club. It is a club. It was.
Yeah, it was a fantastic club, but probably the best club in Cardiff in
Yeah.
our times. Probably
Yeah.
there might be some good ones now. I'm sure there are.
Well, I went back 2 years ago and I was served £2 gin and tonic, and I almost cried.
In Goodywho.
Yeah. £4 for double, I think. Can you believe? I mean,
I wish you could
I'm
see
just
Anya's face right
to
now.
all Londoners
Bliss.
who see the significance of this. I mean, it's just it was a beautiful moment that I will always cherish for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it was a fantastic place. But you know, with the language, one of my little regrets is that I never learned the pronunciation. I'm not even talking learning the language. Although at one point I did attempt to sign up for a Welsh language course.
Oh, see, I should have done that. Now you're making me regret this.
I don't know. No, don't take my regret. Like, my regret is enough. But I do have a bit of regret because even like basic things like I'm not even trying to attempt to pronounce these things, but like Wales in Welsh.
Comedy.
But I would like to be able to say that like with the proper accents and welcome in...
Croeso.
Yeah,
I'm
that
just
one.
showing
Okay,
off here.
so you see, like, you should have no regrets. You've really put me in a bad light right now, but
Go on.
she knows.
Hit me with Nosta, good night. That's my little bit of Welsh.
Oh yeah, that one I remember because there was a popular bed and breakfast hostel called Nosta by the stadium, by the river.
There was also a place called Hoffy Coffee, which means I like coffee, which is so
Does
cute.
it mean that I like coffee? You see,
Yeah.
I used to go there and
Yeah.
I didn't know. See,
Yeah, I love
like
that place.
ignorance. But I was such an ignorant when I was living in Wales. Bigger than I am now. I still am. But I was a total ignorance, or I don't know. I was just like not thinking about many things, and that's why I think I didn't even bother learning the pronunciation.
I guess we can be slightly excused. I'm just excusing us because we came from a faraway country, from the depths of Eastern Europe, and we land in the UK, and that's the kind of image we have in our heads is the UK as a whole, which really is England. I mean, England markets itself as the UK and it just sells England to everyone around. Mm-hmm. And we end up in Wales, and how I didn't know anything about Wales. I'd been in Wales once before. I went to the castle in Cardiff on a trip, and that was it. So you don't
mean
really know much.
When you were a teenager?
Yeah, when I was like doing my English language courses and I was traveling around and visiting places.
I know you were like a
I was
British
obsessed.
nerd.
No, I was obsessed.
But
when I say I was obsessed, I was obsessed. I don't exaggerate when I say, like, yeah, I was big on the UK.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to do competitions and learned the entire history, politics. I had to read books, on like, I competed on like national, semi-national level of language and culture knowledge of the UK. There we go.
We should have some like sub-clapping sound right now. For you. Okay, but back to Wales though.
Wales.
Not your academic record. So, what are your fondest memories from Wales?
Well, I guess it's just very personal things. So they're just kind of my personal university experiences and friends and the community and hominess of it. So I think my favourite thing about Cardiff was that you would always bump into someone on a night out. It was guaranteed you would always bump into someone because you had pretty much, I don't know, one high street, 2, 3 main streets where everyone went out on. So you, even if you didn't go to the same places, you could always end up meeting up or, so that was really fun and really great. And that's something that we could never have in London, and I miss that dearly because I personally really enjoyed that community feel and easiness of being, just kind of everything was easy. Well, apart from like we were in our very early 20s, late teenage, years. Life was easy. You could, after night out, you just grab a cab for £3 to your home, or
cycle home. I cycled everywhere.
Yeah, I was not the healthy type. I was traveling by taxi drunk and paying very little money for it. Thank you, Cardiff. But cycling, yes, you could absolutely cycle in Cardiff. Yeah.
I always think of the Butte Park.
Yeah.
Oh, such a beautiful place, and it was my first experience of like British life in the park. The kind of the fact that you can just lay on the grass and nobody's going to shout at you, and you play sports, and there was always something happening in Butte Park, and it was such a massive place as well, and I loved going there. And the Welsh cake as well, the Welsh cakes, I always remember those, and sadly I can't, well, I choose not to eat them. I don't want to say I can't eat them.
Okay.
Because of my vegan choices.
Yes.
Like whenever I see a Welsh cake, I'm like, oh, this really brings me back to Wales.
So good.
Well, normally I see them in Wales, so I'm already there.
And on that topic, actually, for anyone who's travelling to Cardiff or lives in Cardiff, perhaps, the best Welsh cakes opened just opposite the castle. they're warm and like made fresh, and because I'm not big on raisins, I have to say. I mean, it's fine, but I'm not the biggest fan. But they do Welsh cakes with like white chocolate and all the things, and they're warm. And I had those last year because I went to go back to Cardiff for my reunion in October, and divine Welsh cake. So if you want a proper freshly made Welsh cake that's still warm, go to that place. And if you're not into raisins, if you are into raisins, Cardiff Market also does amazing.
Oh, I forgot about the Cardiff Market.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Wow,
yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
It is.
And it's close to everything else.
It is. And the bay. Oh my god, I always loved the is it the National Theatre? The National
no.
What do you call it?
It was the Millennium Centre.
The Millennium Centre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite striking, isn't it?
Oh my god, it's one of the most beautiful buildings that I have
Google
seen.
it if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
It's stunning.
And it definitely if you are in Cardiff, go to the National what's it called?
Millennium Centre, I think, in the Bay. The little train that goes from Cardiff Centre to the Bay as well.
Yes.
It takes like 10 minutes, or maybe not even.
It's crazy to think that these distances seem so short now. And I remember thinking like, what? We're going to like the Bay? We're going to walk? It's like 45 minutes.
I know.
And it seems like nothing now,
I
right?
know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Another funny thing is that I didn't go to Brecon Beacons whilst living in Wales, in Cardiff, for about, 4 years maybe? I think it took me 4 years to drive for an hour to Brecon Beacons. Such a stunning place. In my defense, I didn't have a car because I cycled everywhere, and Brecon Beacons is not that well connected.
Because I tried to do that with my mum like 10 years ago when she visited, and we didn't really get that far. And it's really difficult on a train and a bus. Like you need to have a car. So
where did you get to?
That place we went to with Meg. Hello, Meg. In Brecon Beacons, the little village. Probably edited it out. But anyway, it's kind of easy to get to from like Merthyr. But in a car, that's the way to do it, in a car.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think I didn't even know that Brecon Beacons existed.
No, right. I had some people who went hiking in Brecon Beacons. I think that's how I knew. But it seemed so far away, even though it was an hour away. It seemed so far away, Brecon Beacons at the time. Like miles. I could not even compute. Until I met Neo, and then we kind of, because we'd always be going to Green Man Festival, which is an amazing festival in Wales as well. Totally recommend. It's bloody little dream world tucked away in Brecon Beacons. I mean, what a location to have a festival. I'm just saying. It's free advertising. Not that it needs it. It always sells out. So. And there's it just driving through Brecon Beacons, stunning. And there's that road that's my favourite road of all time.
Yes.
That we drove on, because we used this for the film, which is called Ricos, I think Ricos Road, and that connects around the valley with Brecon Beacons. And I mean, on top of that, once you drive, you drive from the valley, you have a view on the entire valley, and it's so stunning. And then you just literally drive into Brecon Beacons, and you're on top of the, just see all of the mountains, and so beautiful. Wales is so beautiful. It's just like a different, I don't know, Tolkien world, like is. Lord of the Rings, literally. It
also took me almost, I think, maybe 9 years to go to Pembrokeshire. So I had to leave Wales to go to Pembrokeshire.
Yeah.
And maybe is Tenby in Pembrokeshire already, or does that not belong to?
Now you're the shining one. I have no idea. I'm ignorant.
Yeah, because I remember going to Tenby, and that was also lovely, very colourful. But apart from that, I didn't venture out more along the coast. And then I left Cardiff, and I came back after 4 years, and I went to Pembrokeshire. And again, so stunning. It's just the coastline is so like dramatic, and there's so many different scenic spots, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So I definitely still very much enjoying going back to Wales, and especially like seeing the wildlife and the national parks and the mountains. Fantastic. It really feels like a different world, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, when we went to Snowdonia, I had that exact feeling of like, this is a different world.
Yeah.
It just feels different, and life flows at a different speed, and people eat different food, they talk in a different way. Everything was so different. So I really love that about the UK, that you can go to a different country within a country, and it really feels that way.
Yeah.
At least when you go to Wales.
Yeah. And as we're paying like this homage to Wales, can we please pay homage to the most wonderful Welsh people? Because that needs to be a separate homage. Because the Welsh people are just the loveliest, nicest people ever. So like they just need like a special. They collectively, and I mean separate from my experience of people I directly made friends with. All lovely, amazing people, but just the kind of cheerfulness and that kind of directness and that is genuine, like art of genuine conversation and art of genuine engagement and joy is so brilliant in Wales. And it's as soon as you cross the border, you feel that. And I remember my first, I think it was my first time, maybe not my first day, one of the the beginning bit, and I was in a taxi, maybe going somewhere, and the taxi driver literally told me his whole life story, and he was just so happy to be talking to me, and he asked me all of the questions, and he was just very enthusiastic about where I was from and what I was doing, and he told me about his daughter and that happened a million times. That happens if you just go to a shop, if you go to a pub, and this sort of natural, you're a human being, I'm going to strike a conversation, and it's going to be very direct, and there's none of that reserve that makes me reserved in England. I still navigate my English words because on so many occasions I don't know where I am in England. Like, am I crossing the line? Am I offending someone? In Wales, I felt like that was just not a thing. And it's much more just down to earth. People are just much more, I don't know, I guess maybe similar to Poles in that way, but more cheerful. I'm just making a lot of enemies right now. But I absolutely love that feeling of community in Wales.
But do you think this comes precisely from the feeling of community, that wherever in the world you have the feeling of community, people are going to be more open, they are going to be more direct and more willing to help?
Yes and no. I think there's some truth in that, but I think there's also kind of the general trait that you notice with it's obviously hugely generalizing, but I'm just talking about the general feel that you get from majority of people you encounter. So obviously not everyone, and that's a sort of similar thing you feel in Scotland. I haven't been to Scotland many times, so I can't really talk about it at length, but on those few occasions I had that same kind of first impression. And when I went to Ireland just once, I had that first impression, and it's very same in Wales. It's that openness is the opposite of what you get in England, especially as a foreigner. I think I remember going to the valleys for the first time to meet my ex-boyfriend's family, and there was no one on that train that wasn't Welsh. Everyone was Welsh, white and Welsh, and I felt so foreign. You have no idea. There was not even an English person there. And that's probably the majority of the valleys. There's not really even English people living in Wales. In that part anyway. And I was made to feel so welcome. Instantly, always. at the time where my English was definitely worse, 100%, like 10 years ago. When I was new to everything, so not really accustomed to the culture as much, I always felt at home. And I don't think I can say that about England the same way. You know, and I think that's apt for this podcast and us talking as foreigners, and I'm sure we have lots of foreign listeners with different experiences of being felt unwelcome at times. I know they're usually obviously isolated incidents, but the only time I had something said to me was in England. Or I felt sort of unwelcome, or I felt foreign, and someone made me feel like, oh yeah, you're not one of us, kind of. It was, I never ever had that feeling in Wales, ever, for the 2 years. And whenever I came back, because I left 8-9 years ago, but then I was with my ex for however many years later, so we kept coming back to visit his family. So it was not like, that's it, I never went back to Wales for another 3 or 4 years. I kept coming back.
Yeah.
And that's something, I think, the Welsh, super homage to Wales. I think Wales is so underappreciated here that is, I think, something that the Welsh should be most proud of. Being this tiny little country on the side of, kind of tucked away in the UK, and being so utterly welcoming to everyone, and just really friendly, but not polite, genuinely friendly. So my tribute to the Welsh, you're awesome, all of you.
I'm thinking now about the Welsh cuisine, and the only thing that is coming to my mind right now is the Welsh cakes. And I'm pretty sure there must be a lot more. Are there any major things that I missed?
Did you try the famous, I think, Valley delicatessen of rice with chips and curry sauce? Rice and chips.
Did you just use the word delicatessen to describe rice and chips
with curry sauce?
Curry sauce. No, I have not tried that.
Mixed chips with rice.
Mixed.
Yeah, so you have chips and rice and curry sauce. Basically, you have carbs with carbs, or chip bati. But I think chip bati is also northern, so I don't know if the Welsh can claim that.
Chip bati.
Your chips in a bun, in a bread bun.
Okay, I'm just realising, no, I did not miss much.
Or just chips with curry sauce always.
That's true.
Oh God, that's so
but
good.
You see, this is very, very interesting because Wales was the first place that I came to. I thought that was a normal thing. That's how people eat chips in the
absolutely.
UK.
Yeah, and then
So
I
I
moved to England and you realise, okay, that's.
But you're right. Like, I haven't seen chips with curry sauce for, I think, since I left Wales. So that probably means it's something.
It's definitely not as popular.
Quite characteristic to Wales.
Yeah, you can get it. I've done it in England, but it's not like the automatic kind of go-to thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, give me more. What else was there?
Well, any sort of lamb stuff is very Welsh, isn't it? No,
that was Welsh too?
Like lamb pies and stuff, no?
Is that not just a British thing?
Maybe.
With like mint sauce. I remember that.
Yeah.
But I remember that when I was learning about the UK as a whole. I was still back in Poland.
Right.
Lamb with mint sauce, and I was always like, what?
Yeah. No, it's good. Have you tried it with mint sauce?
I think, I've tried it, and
no,
I stand by my original opinion.
Okay. Just trying to think of anything. I think seafood also is a big thing in Wales. Lots of people eat, all those little
cod.
No, like more like little like cockles and those little hard shell things that I could not ever. Always sold in Cardiff Market, and it's like very popular. People just maybe it's also popular in English seaside as well. Maybe it's a seaside thing because Cardiff is a seaside city, really. Drinks. Like we drank lots of cider and black, but I'm not sure if that's Welsh thing in particular. I don't think it's a very Southern English thing. Maybe it's a more northern thing. But yeah, cider and black, no?
Cider and black or cider black?
Cider. Well, I always said cider and black. and black. Because it's cider
But
with
that's
black
a brand
currant.
of
No,
cider.
no. That's cider with blackcurrant cordial in it.
Oh, no, I never tried that.
Oh, we're going.
Wow.
I mean, you're gonna have some chips with some rice and curry sauce, and you have cider with blackcurrant
We need to
cordial.
go back to Cardiff.
I think your body would explode after that. I don't think I could not do that to you.
Actually,
My
right.
little healthy vegan just having chips with the rice and cider with blackcurrant cordial.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
I'm really trying to. I'm racking my brains for anything that I ate when I was in Cardiff, and what comes to me is like muesli with ice cream. But that's because I was eating muesli with ice cream when I was living in Cardiff. It was like my go-to
So I don't think
snack.
students are a good indication of national cuisine.
Right? I'm such a bad
I used
indication
to
of
have
the Welsh cuisine.
Pasta with tomato sauce. I'm like the last person to talk about food in that time.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I had no diet. I just ate chips all the time. I don't know.
Mm.
So, but the half and half is the rice and chips. Sorry, that's the only thing I'm saying right now. I feel like I'm sure there's like lots of great Welsh cuisine because we didn't even eat anything Welsh when we were in Wales. Rarebit, yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
Welsh rarebit.
Okay.
With the it's the kind of the egg with is it mayo on the toast, but it's like properly made.
So that's a
Nice to meet.
sandwich.
Yes, but it's called Welsh rarebit because it's like better. It's more on it.
Deluxe.
It's like egg deluxe. Yeah, there's more than egg there. But,
Okay.
It's good. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. No, I am determined to go back to Wales and try something that's properly Welsh.
And also,
Food or drink.
I think we should go back to North Wales and really do that there because I think North Wales is more traditionally culturally Welsh.
Yeah.
I think South Wales is also it's just different Welsh. I think it's say like Valleys is very Valleys, and it's like my experience is what I say describe chips and rice and everything. That's more my Valleys experience. I can't really say if I went to I don't know Holyhead or anywhere Snowdonia that would be the thing. It's definitely a thing in southern Wales where we were.
Yeah.
Right, in Cardiff. And Cardiff is also like everything because like any capital city,
Right. Yeah.
so it's
Okay.
difficult to judge.
Well, okay, we're going back to Cardiff and we are going to record an episode there whilst trying all these things that we missed out on when we were living
Exactly.
there. I was thinking about something else as well when we were talking about our latest trip to Snowdonia. Something that's struck me. Struck me?
Struck me. I think.
Struck me.
Stroke is like the głaskać.
Yes, it is.
Something
God.
could have stroked you though. I probably would have been me, let's be honest. I probably stroked you.
Oh my god, hashtag 10 years in the UK. Still can't speak. So, struck me. Yeah, that was it. So, something that struck me was rugby was on. We went into, I think it was a petrol station or maybe a pub we stopped by.
It was actually a petrol station, which is even better.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And there was a TV on and rugby was on. And again, it's one of those things that you just don't realize how much you have around you until you leave the place and there's nothing of it. And then you go back and you're like, oh my God, there's so much rugby.
Yeah, so
Right?
Yeah.
And I remember having to watch rugby all the time. Well, not when I was probably until like the fourth year in Cardiff, because then my boyfriend at the time was really into sport and rugby, and because everybody else was into rugby, he was English.
So he was English, living in Wales, into rugby.
Into rugby.
I do feel sorry for him a little bit.
He did say that whenever he would go into a pub, like when a match was on, you could really feel tension between the
Yeah.
Welsh people and the English people. I don't know. I obviously like.
I remember him saying that. That was really interesting. How he kind of felt that almost like hostility. And I think maybe we were talking about the Welsh friendliness and the genuine, just that loving kind of attitude towards everyone else that I experienced definitely, and my friends did as well. But maybe when you're English, it's not really that friendly.
Well, could we conclude that if you are a foreigner, except for English,
Yeah.
the best place to go is to go to Wales?
Yes. I think you're definitely more welcome in Wales than you are in England.
So if you ever feel unwelcome in England, the Welsh are going to welcome you and stroke you. Stroke you.
Yeah, I think so. But not if you're English, maybe don't move to Wales. I don't know. It's funny because like I remember because that was my first experience of being in the UK. So that's all I knew, and Wales was home. The Welsh were my family, literally at the time. And then I moved to England, and I was not even still kind of being connected to them. Obviously, I wasn't even aware of the amount of jokes there are from the English towards Welsh. If you just like watch TV from time to time, I guarantee you every show has some kind of joke on Welsh. Everyone jokes about the Welsh.
Yeah.
And I never saw that until I kind of stopped being in Wales through my ex. So when I guess that stopped. I wasn't going back to Wales. I started dating an English guy. I only have one Welsh friend in London right now. So that kind of word moved away from me. And then I started noticing all the jokes. And I was just like, what the hell? Or like, they all like putting on the Welsh accent and everything. And, it shocked me. And I'm still like I feel like I'm a little Welsh police now in England. Because I catch them out because I can't take it. And I get very serious. And even it's jokes and they kind of calm me down. Just like, no, not on my watch. Not in front of my ears. Don't joke about the Welsh.
I remember obviously my ex talking about this, but I don't see it that much anymore, and I wonder whether that's because simply I don't live in Wales anymore, and I wasn't like maybe so aware of that aspect when I was back then. But I do agree with seeing the jokes about the relationship between the Welsh and the English on TV, because when I had that phase when I was really into comedy shows, like there was always a joke about something about English versus Welsh.
Yeah, but it was mostly just there was not much coming from the Welsh side. I think maybe like the Welsh is more like hostile anti-English attitude, sort of ish. Not like actually hostile, but more like don't watch rugby with us. but then on the other side it's just like jokes all around, and basically having this sort of all the Welsh, it's like let's not even bother to joke about them, because that's like they at the end of we're going to joke about the Irish, we're going to joke about the Scottish, and who else is there almost, there's always like there's no need to mention that, and it's like wow. I mean, I'm just find it really I was finding it really interesting to notice that, because of you having come from Wales, I just had no idea until I came to England. I was like, wow, that's the thing. But then I'm sort of like, you're talking about my home country now.
Yeah.
So I have two homes, and it's funny because I only spent 2 years in Wales and 18 years in Poland, but I definitely treat them both as like my countries. So don't mess with either, basically. Yeah. Do you feel like you felt as a foreigner, do you feel like, having spent actually equal amount of time in Wales and England, do you see England more as your home or Wales, if you take Poland out of the equation?
Interesting question, and a tough question. because when I think of Wales, even though it's got such a special place in my heart and I do think of it as home, it feels like a lifetime away, you know? Like it was a different person who lived in Wales. And I was a completely different person. So it does feel like home, but a home that belonged to someone who used to live in my body and is not there anymore. So it's a very strange feeling. And with the UK, with England, I do think of it as home, but at the same time, it's difficult to relate with England as a whole because I live in London. We live in London.
Yeah, that's true.
So it feels like I don't know really what the rest of England is like, and it's very different, definitely, from what London is like, because obviously I've been outside London, and I know that every town, every place I've been in feels just so very different. So I don't identify with the rest of the country. So I think the way I think of it now, when I think of what feels like home to the person that I am right now, is Poland and the UK as a whole. So I don't see it as
what a diplomat. Oh my God, there's no spice coming from.
Yeah, but
I thought I could trick you into, some controversial answer. But
no, unfortunately, I don't have a controversial answer. But there's like it's a weird answer as well, because I've never been to Scotland, for example. I never went to Scotland, but yet somehow I would like to include that in my definition of home.
And also, I'd like to take it even further and maybe not analyze it, because it's way too deep of a discussion. What is the UK? What does that even mean? The UK is such an abstract. There's no British nation. No one identifies. Well, I'm sure people identify as British, but then you can say, well, what does it mean, really?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very abstract, political union, isn't it? That became to symbolize a country as a whole, but can it? And what about Northern Ireland? So, just leaving it out.
How about you?
It's funny, I kind of feel, I definitely think of Wales as a home, like my little spiritual home, and my people. When I see a Welsh person, my first reaction is, you're my person. Like, forever love. That's the take from this episode. I feel like a Londoner because I think I've become a Londoner. And I don't really see London as a home, but I think London has created me now. So I act like a Londoner. I don't talk like a Londoner in terms of an accent maybe, but then also what is London accent now? That's also a whole different question. But I have very London problems, very London issues, opinions, and I think London is almost like an entity in itself, with our attitudes and the way we think about the world, and simple things like commute and amount of time and how we see time. Also big things like diversity in the true meaning of the word and living in a truly multicultural city and how we feel about it, and we generally feel much better about it than the rest of England by all referendums and polls and everything. So I don't know if it is at home, but I think it's part of me, and I think it'll always be a part of me. And Poland is somewhere I come from, and it's in me as well. So it is a sort of a home, but more like a nostalgic kind of home in memory. But again, as the gist of this, I think, podcast, and I think it should always be something that we come back to, an identity of how Polish are we now, having lived in the UK and sharing all those homes actually, and going through different places that have built us and changed us so much. So it's a sort of home, but it's like not a straightforward question about Poland, because I'm always in between, and I'm not 100% Polish anymore. Maybe I'm 30% Polish, 30% Welsh, and how many percent is left? 40% London.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe that's
interesting.
Rather than English, London really. wrapping up this I ended up on a philosophical note. I do apologise. I have this
I love
tendency.
philosophical notes.
But I wanted to really leave on big love for Wales. It's cariad, I think, is love in Welsh. I hope it is.
You keep shining in this episode.
Because if it's not, then it's very embarrassing. But I'm going to stick with it, not edit this. I'm going to stick with cariad. And I can actually say I love you in Welsh. But if I could, I would say this to you, Anitka, and to our listeners as well. But
oh, you can't say.
I don't know how to say.
Okay.
So you got to be excited.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
I could just say cariad doesn't like love, but that's
Okay.
Yeah. So
definitely massive tribute to Wales, and always very fond memories, and we will always feel.
Go to Wales. And if you're Welsh, you're just amazing. So just enjoy that.
Stay
enjoy
Welsh.
being amazing. Yes, to stay Welsh and amazing. Yes.
Thank you guys for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share your love, like, subscribe, leave us a review. We've had a few new reviews and they were fantastic. Yes. So thank you so much to everyone.
We love a good praise.
Yeah, had the time to taken the time to leave a review. And also, if there is a favorite moment of this episode, take a screenshot and share it on Instagram. You can find us at Your Local Foreigners.
Yes.
I almost got it wrong.
Local Foreigners, yes.
At Your Local Foreigners.
Yeah. So please give us a follow and comment and DM us with any questions or ideas as well.
Suggestions for new episodes. Yeah, definitely. And we will catch up with you in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.